Okay, here we are in Unreal Engine, and let's hit new and create a new default map. And this is the default map, and the lighting is also working all right. And let's hit play to see if everything is all right. Yeah, it's working. And now we need to come in here in the landscape edit mode and hit new. And instead of create new, we are going to import from a file. Let's select and use this raw. It looks like we need to fix something. So let's hit import to see if it's working or not. And we are getting errors, and we do not want this, and we need to fix the import options. So let's go to manage and instead select this landscape actor and delete it. So again, go in here, and for the output resolution, we want to select 1024 because that was 1024, by the way, in Gaia that we created. So let's hit import, and we're still getting some errors. And this is not really what we intended for. So let's select this again and delete it. And the height map resolution in here is wrong. We need to fix it. So let's go for 1024 by 1024 and hit import again. And now this is what we are getting. Perfectly fine. And these areas need to be fixed. So to fix that, let's go to manage. No, let's again delete it. This will happen a lot of times when you try to import landscapes if you are not too careful with it. So now the resolution is okay, and the overall resolution needs to be that 1024. So import, and now we have gotten rid of those unnecessary sections. And this is the island that we created. This is the landscape, and working perfectly fine. And now we need to apply the texture to it. So let's first exit out of this and save it in the first place. So I'm going to create a new folder and call it Pirate Island. And this one is very important. You should have the folder naming and everything alright. So inside the Pirate Island, I'm going to create a folder and call it maps and call it 00 blockout underline A. So I'm calling this 00 because it adds a 0 before the name as a suffix, and it happens upon the list, on top of the list. And the blockout is going to be the name of it, the name of the folder, excuse me, the name of the map, and I'm going to change it later on. For example, when I'm going to import the proxy meshes, I may name this 01 underline proxy mesh underline A. And if I did some iterations, I make it 01 proxy mesh underline B, so that we know what is going on. So let's save it. And now I'm going in here and bring in a folder and name it materials. And call a folder again and call it debug, because these are going to be my debug materials, which are not going to make it to the final gameplay. I'm going to just make some temporary materials in here. So let's select the material and name it landscape. And import, and I'm going to import this as the color map. So let's select it and see if everything is alright. It should be sRGB and color. Okay, I'm fine. Let's close it and bring this landscape material on. And of course, bring this texture in here and plug it into the base color. And the color is working alright also. So we need to make this one tile once on the whole landscape. The tiling system for basic materials isn't like this, but for landscape, we need to bring a landscape layer coordinates. And in the mapping scale, we need to enter the import resolution that we had there. So let's call it 1024 and plug it into the UVs and hit save. Now it's gone. So let's come in here, select the landscape material, select this, and in the landscape material, let's apply that. Okay, now it has calculated and brought the material and anything in, and it's okay. I'm happy with it. So let's see and import something in here, something as a mannequin, this character, to see the scale of the normal human being compared to the whole island, to see if I want to rescale the island or not. So I need to scale the island just a bit to make it work better. So for the location, let's put it 0, 0, 0. And for the scaling, let's select this. And in the scale, I'm not going to scale it too much, just a bit. So let's put 80, 80 and 80 in here. And again, place a mannequin in here. Too big. Let's put 50. Okay, this is too small now. I'm going to use this 80 for now. Okay, I'm happy with this. And now the landscape is a little bit shiny. Let's come in here. And for the roughness, let's add a constant. And we want to make something like 0.7 value so that it adds a little bit of roughness to the landscape and isn't so shiny. Okay, this is what I'm happy with. And in here, there's going to be a port. And before that, it's going to be something like a fortress or something with a lot of trees happening here and there. And of course, this area is going to be the sea. And let's see what we can do about it. So let's take this landscape. And instead of rescaling uniformly, I'm going to enter here 50. And in here, I'm going to make it 100. No, let's make it 80. And try another mannequin in here. And try to run over it to see if there's a right or not. So let's select it and start to play on it. This is the sea. There's going to be a port here. Yeah, this is the scale that I'm looking for. This is great. So I'm going to place the camera in here. So let's come in here and save the map as a new one. Save current level as, and in here I'm going to write in B so that we have a lot of variations from the map. And if we destroy something, we have something to refer back to. So let's delete this and start to do a little bit of house cleaning. So I'm going to choose all of the actors that contribute to the lighting of the scene and put them in the lighting folder. And this folder thing is very important to keep it clean and consistent. So the player starts, it's in here. Let's bring it right in here. So when we hit play, we spawn the player in here, which I'm happy with. So the player starts, I'm going to move it to the utility folder, and this landscape, I'm going to make it its own folder. So let's make a landscape folder. And this reflection, I do not need it for now. And this mannequin I deleted, and this one, I'm going to put it in the mesh folder. And in the mesh folder, let's put it, create a new subfolder in the mesh and call it blockout, because this is going to be used only as a blockout and it's going to be deleted later on. And try to keep your folders as clean and as possible to avoid any future headaches. So let's add a post process in here. You go to volume and try to find the post process volume. The normal way is that we scale this to encompass the whole landscape, but we don't want that. We simply select the post process, come in here and hit infinite extent, so that even this is a small cube, it's going to affect the whole world. And there's a setting in here which needs to be fixed, and it's the exposure. Let's find it. It's up in here. And this is the eye adaptation effect. You see, if you look to the sun and look back, there are going to be some changes in the lighting and the exposure. You see the light has become darker in here, and I don't want this eye adaptation effect, so I'm going to disable it. Let's select the post process exposure. Let's set it to 1, and this min and max, let's set them to 1, so that it deletes all of the exposure that is happening in here. Let's set it to 0 or 0.5 is good. It's good for beginning stages when you don't want anything happening in here in case of eye adaptation. So let's add this one to the lighting folder as well, and in the subfolder call it PP for post process. And now I'm going to bring in a camera. We can come in here in the create and in the cinematic and drag a cinematic camera in here, or we can simply from here create cinematic camera and create cinematic actor, and it spawns a camera right in place that we are. So let's select it, and for this one I want to have the full view instead of this menu in here. I'm going to go in the window viewports and select it from here. So let's select the camera and pilot the camera. Now we are seeing the world through the lenses of the camera. So let's select it. And there are some settings that need to be done. So select the camera, and in here, window detail panel, bring an extra detail panel in here. And let's lock and bring it in front. First, the lens setting, I'm going to make it a bit wider. I really love this cinematic bars that we have here. So this is good. And bring the current aperture up so that it zooms all the way out. So this is for the blockout camera. let's place it somewhere that is good for compositional purposes. So let's say that we are happy with this right here, and for now we're selecting it and placing it right here, or we can put it somewhere in here. Okay, let's say that I'm happy with this. Later on we might change this, so for now I'm happy with it, and let's select a new folder and call it camera, and done. So let's select the camera and bring another copy from it in case something goes wrong with the camera. We have something to refer back to. So let's select the camera, and one thing that you can do is overriding in here in the perspective, go to the cinematic viewport, and in the cinematic viewport you have some options. Let's select it and select the camera from here. You have some options to place your grid lines. These grid lines are perfect for adding the focal points. For example, I'm going to use the rule of third in this. So we're going to use these lines to place our focal points. For example, I'm going to place one focal point in here, which is the port, and for example, bring another castle in here, a broken castle or something in here to balance out. This is called the rule of thirds. We're dividing the screen into thirds horizontally and vertically, and these colliding points in here are the points that we need to place our focal points in. And remember, when you place a focal point in here, it's good to place something in here to balance out the picture so that it's not so heavy in here and so light in here. So this is good, and let's select this camera, delete it, and copy and paste it so that we have the updated camera. So we have this, and let's pin it so that even when you select something else, the camera is going to stay at the same place. And we don't want this. Let's hide it and start to place the blockout shapes. And from this create menu, let's drag a simple cube and bring it somewhere in here and start to visualize it from the composition camera. Let's bring the grids, and this is perfectly where the broken part is going to be. This is going to be a room or something that we are going to place the ports in, and of course have the dimensions in here in mind. And now this default cube is 1 meter by 1 meter, and if we, for example, resize it by something, we have now something like 3 meters cube by 1 by 1. You should have these dimensions in mind because later on in Blender we are going to create proxy meshes to import for this to have a little bit of more detailing, so we need these values to be in mind. So this is good for now, and for this one let's also give it a 3, not 30. Okay, and for this one let's select this also and exit out of this and bring this camera and pin it again. For this place we're going to use this cube and place it on that part to be a block holder. For example, later on we place a castle before this cube. Use this cube for a placeholder for the castle. So when you're selecting a camera and pinning it, it's going to be a little bit performance heavy because this scene has been rendered now twice, one this in this viewport and one in this. So let's go in here and check the real-time off so that only changes happen in here and no extra cost has been put into performance. So let's select this and it only reflects the changes, and let's resize it quite much. For example, we can visualize this as a broken port wall or something. And let's go in here and select the camera and pilot the camera. Okay, this is perfect. We can use a castle wall in here. We can use some cliffs. We can use anything basically to balance out this picture. And always try to have this mannequin in here copied some places so that we have a little bit of better understanding of how the scaling is going to be. So to add a little bit of depth into this environment, let's go into this create and go into visual effects and drag exponential height fog in. And this adds a fog, and it's just like what is happening in nature. It's darker in the areas in front of us and getting lighter towards the end, and it's going to add a little bit of depth into the scene. So let's add this into the lighting, and it's not an ordinary lighting. Let's put it into its own folder and call it fog. Later on we might change the settings, but for now it's going to be perfect. So I believe overall it's good for this part, and in the next session we're going to improve the blockout and bring the blockout to the next level because it's needed so that we know what works and what not. So see you in the next session.